I'm Preeti Sangwan, host of this seasonal conversation about the Erin Mills Farmers Market and our local food systems here in the Greater Toronto Area. In my day job, I'm a lawyer working in the area of civil and family law. I'm also on the board of the Erin Mills Farmers Market here in Mississauga. I've always been interested in food sustainability, and that's what drew me to the Erin Mills Farmers Market. I started out by helping at the market info booth and eventually joined the board. I realized that our food system is a diverse and intricate network of individuals and organizations working to make local food accessible. The more I got involved, the more I wanted to get to know about the people in this dynamic community. And I realized that I wanted to tell others about it. So when the opportunity came along, I jumped at the chance to host this podcast. I hope you'll join us as we explore local food. If you joined us last time, you'll have heard Gabby share her story and her work in the market and community. Gabby manages the market alongside Lee Overton. Lee's been involved in the project since the beginning and has had a unique and in-depth knowledge of everything that's involved in getting local food to your table, whether it be local governance and policies, vendors, and the customers themselves. Lee, tell me about how you got involved with the Erin Mills Farmers Market.
So the market was a vision of Daniels Corporation back in 2013. There was a gentleman there by the name of Adam Molson who said, let's have a farmer's market on this land that we're not going to build on for 7 years. And so he recruited Jane Hayes and Daniel Hoffman from Hoffman and Hayes. So the first year they brought it together, but in the second year they realized they needed somebody to operationalize the project and the market with them. So I had my own business for 3 years, and my passion has always been local food. So I saw this on a job board, but I saw it more as something to do on the side at the beginning because it's, the funding for these projects isn't always full time and stuff. So I started into the project. I, worked with Jane and the person who started up at the very beginning, Janicki, and Daniel. For 3 years, basically operationalized the farmers market and doing everything, marketing, operations, community development work, the entire thing.
That's awesome. I like seeing how your role developed over the years and how you really got sucked into a lot bigger role than you originally intended, but we're all grateful for it. The work that you did before, how have your skills in marketing, customer care, and community research helped you develop this market?
I think farmers markets are underrated in the amount of energy and work that they take to put on. First of all, they're an event. And if anybody's ever done an event, it's lots of people, lots of work just to get an event to go. But you're running these things some markets run it all year round, and they're usually run by cities because you need that infrastructure to keep it going. And then a lot of them are also, maybe run by a volunteer board, and then they hire just somebody to do the vendor work, to recruit vendors and to maintain vendors and that sort of thing. It takes a lot more energy and diverse skill set than I think most people know. And I'm a bit of a generalist, so I can do operation work. I have a very strong administrative side, and my marketing communication side is the other side of it. So I was sort of positioned well, I guess, for this type of thing. But I also I do a lot of strategy work. So that also came in here because with Daniels, they wanted to make sure that this project also helped integrate the new residents that were coming into the condos that they were building. So there's a lot of different pieces that were going on in this project, and you really did need sort of an overview of how to bring this all together. So I was very lucky because my skill set was so diverse, but it also taught me a lot about the 100 markets in Ontario and the type of people and the energy going on to bring local food to communities.
And of all of these skills that you have and all of these talents that you employ to keep this running, what is one of the most valuable resources in maintaining projects like Erin Mills Farmers Market and other markets like it?
Funding. Number one thing is funding. You can get them off the ground with a really strong passion and volunteerism, but it's that sustainability. It's to take it further, or it's to actually get the depth of a project. You need to have some funding. Because of the hours that go into these sort of things, you can expect volunteers to do a certain amount. I also worked 13 years in nonprofits. So we used to always say, the first thing is you got to take care of yourself. The second thing is the people that you love, your family usually. Then you usually want to try and fit exercise in there and some healthy cooking or eating, if you can do that. And then the fourth thing is volunteering. So you're already coming to the table in these environments with a lot on people's plate. I always say the busiest people are usually the people that volunteer, because they're the ones that just have this sort of energy of wanting to, keep connected and also just keep their communities vibrant.
And participate.
Exactly.
So when we talk about community, how has this Erin Mills Farmers Market integrated with its community?
One of my favorite things about what has come out of the market, the gardens, developing a board, working with Daniels. Now we're an actual licensee, and we have partnered with Daniels in that way. But when in the earlier stages, it was really neat to see how vendors would start to work together. So all these vendors are people that have given up their either, maybe they've gone through downsizing, maybe it's a health issue, maybe it's just a dream of theirs to have their own business and they do something amazing. So there's all kinds of reasons why people get into their own businesses in a small business, but to see them work together. And I think one of my favorite things I remember when we were probably about 3 years in, is we got a community built in our vendor base where they were now starting to talk and work together. People who had stores were now starting to feature people from the actual market and bring their product in. But they were also at the end of the market. You could see them go over and they'd say, well, you know what? I'll buy a flat of your raspberries because I'm a preserve maker. And now, so many things are going on there. It looks really simple and sounds really simple, but now you've just taken organic. A lot of times we had organic vegetables and fruit, and you've now just helped another vendor find this and not have to travel, an hour to go and get this from a local farm, because none of our farms are close anymore. So it was really nice to see that sort of community. And then what we started seeing was people were just being attracted. They would just come because the vibe. They just wanted to be there. Unfortunately, it didn't always result in sales for our vendors, but it definitely helped with community development. And that's really sort of where the foundation started. We had that to then build on, which was nice.
You focus and you talk about the relationship that the vendors build amongst themselves. How has this market and the local vendors been serving their customers differently?
A couple things happen when people do markets for the first time in a vendor environment. A lot of the time they're newer businesses, and they need to get a feel for what the community wants, what the customer wants. And what we've also seen is that the customer is a lot more savvy than they used to be. They've got more questions. They want to know more. So to see the vendors learn about what it is they might have to change in their business, what's working well, what isn't. So it's a nice sort of training ground at farmers markets. But then some of them keep on doing it, even if they've decided to wholesale or they're catering or however they take their business model. A lot of them do because it does ground them and it does get them back in touch with, what the needs are in that community. So you start to see development within each vendor. And some of the changes. But my first thing was I remember telling vendors saying, you gotta accept credit. So we've seen that. We've seen that credit cards are actually accepted a lot more now across all of the farmers markets, because they're all learning about that. And then they have to sort of keep up with how people are behaving. A lot of markets have developed online ordering. So each vendor will go on and list all their products on there, and people will be able to go on, pre-order, and pick up at the market. And that was really the only way we could actually open at the beginning with COVID. So I think that actually, though, is going to help markets evolve even further going forward. So for a long time, markets didn't evolve very much, but we're starting to see technology kind of creep into them.
So it's clear to us that markets are a great opportunity for vendors and consumers to communicate and connect immediately. What is key to diversifying our community and the supply?
What I've really noticed in our community, being in Mississauga, is it's highly diverse. So a lot of different ethnic backgrounds. We actually have been very fortunate to attract some farmers over the years that are able to grow world crops. And there's interest in the farming community to cultivate and grow, bok choy, okra, callaloo, all these different crops that typically they weren't growing. He would then save some for us, and we had another vendor go pick it up to bring it for our callaloo customers. I see with diversity changing, they're sort of leading the way And if farmers markets, I think, are smart, they will listen to what the needs are of the community and make sure that they're servicing that.
And to be a viable option compared to the regular grocery store.
Yeah. And it just allows you to really understand who your community is if you're really engaging with them. And then you, like I said, you are then you're doing a better job, I think.
And when it comes to your experiences with markets, are bigger, longer lasting markets better with diversity?
I think it's interesting, especially right now with COVID, we're all sort of together and talking a lot more. I think city markets, bigger city markets, they just have the volume of people. If there's 1 million people in a city or 500,000 people in a city, the percentage of those people that shop at farmers markets is just going to be higher because of pure population and their interest in it. But I think if you're in a culturally diverse area, I think if you started offering that, you're going to now meet the needs of your community better, and you are going to get a different type of client, one that's saying, hey, I can finally find this here.
Having said that, and having gone through COVID, and which has been a huge learning experience for all of us, what's your vision for the future of local food?
I don't know about you, but anywhere I travel now on the road, I was just up in Haliburton on the weekend, and all of a sudden I saw these 2 more farm gates. I've been traveling those roads for 14 years and never saw them before. Local guys starting to, had an acre of land. He's starting to farm. He's got some chickens. They're all non-sprayed, and I'm like, wow, I can go to a farm gate now, not only at my home, where I live, or a farmer's market, but I can now find it kind of anywhere. So, I was never one of those people that really spent a lot of time in grocery stores. I was a health food shopper, or I lived in Vancouver for 8 years, and I would take the little ferry from Kitsilano and go over to False Creek and go to Granville Island, and I was in my 20s. So I don't typically shop in big stores for food because I care about where my food comes from, and I really believe in that community part of buying from people that are growing. What we also saw was shares in community shared agriculture. They're called CSAs, and so what happens in those environments is you will buy a share of the produce that they're going to produce that season. But you buy out right at the beginning and you front that money to the farmer so they know exactly how much to plant, and it also gives them the equity to be, the cash flow. To me, this is really exciting because I can now see that people are getting more access to it. The farmers are really being able to work their business models the way they want to. I don't know what I'm going to get every week, but that's the fun of it. And I'm learning new vegetables. I'm learning new things to cook. So I think there's some excitement out there now, which is really great. And that's just going to help our food system and our food supply all the way along because, it's a chicken and the egg story with everything, right? Supply and demand. And same thing here. If more people want to shop this way, get their food this way, support local agriculture, then the farmers are going to be more successful at doing it.
And the CSAs appear to be not only providing food security, but also sustainability for the vendors and the consumers who, if markets are supposed to be a viable solution, a consistent solution, you'd need those things. Thank you for joining us, Lee. I'm so glad you could take the time to have this discussion with us. I've learned a bunch from you. CSAs are something I had no real idea of, so I appreciate you sharing that information.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining in today. I hope you found Lee's vision for the future as exciting and inspiring as I did. I look forward to you joining in on our next conversation. Until then, I'm Preeti Sangwan. Have a happy day.